The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
I did the screening tests for blood, and the on the blades was positive. There was no visible staining. However, on the hatchet head, I did notice some sort of greasy and oil-like substance. In my experience, whenever a cutting instrument is used on an individual, it can leave behind this greasy and oily substance, which is indicative of fatty tissues.
Did you identify anything as far as potential hairs?
Yes.
How did Ana Walshe die? The crime scene reconstruction expert who helped convict Alex Murdaugh weighs in on Brian Walsh's murder case. Plus, Luigi's looks are what's trending in true crime as the accused assassin is flashing a fist pump during his suppression hearing. We're breaking down that pose as well as the overall optics of the upcoming trial. And was it murder or was it manslaughter? Could the updated counts for the lip filler alleged child killer tip the scales of justice? Also this hour, it's day number 2 of our 12 days of holiday crimes. We're spotlighting the deadly Christmas parade attack that happened in Wisconsin and the pro se defendant, Darrell Brooks. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Tuesday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. We hope your week is off to a good start. We planned a great show for you with great guests. So let's get it going as we always do. Grab that cup of coffee or tea or whatever you're having this morning. It's time for my opening statement. Appreciate what you have before it turns into what you had. My friends, I got to thinking about that famous expression with baby Emilio Gutierrez's death being at the center of the criminal homicide trial of his mother, defendant Maya Hernandez. She left her 1-year-old baby Emilio and his older brother, her other son, who was 2 years old at the time, in her car while she went into a med spa to get lip injections. Hernandez left her car running with the air conditioning on, but it shut off automatically after so much time had passed. And baby Emilio died after being in that intense heat. Thank God her other son survived. But just like that, what Maya Hernandez had was gone. Her beautiful, healthy, perfect baby was dead. Her toddler, also beautiful, healthy, and perfect, was taken into state custody. So also gone, just in a different way. She should have been more mindful and more grateful for those 2 perfect babies. I mean, what a blessing. We're going to be talking more about whether baby Emilio's death is murder or manslaughter coming up a little later in the show. But I wanted to start off the show with how this case really serves as a tragic lesson for all of us in mindfulness and in gratitude. Maya Hernandez probably didn't realize it at the time, but looking back, I bet she understands now that she had everything. That's my opening statement on this Tuesday morning. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
Or GTE, or checking for gas leaks.
My husband actually is the people that were here with us.
For count 1, first-degree felony murder, the jury finds defendant Hernandez guilty as charged.
Count 1, first-degree felony murder, guilty as charged.
In Michigan, we've got the home invasion hoax murder sentencing starting up today at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Joshua Zuazo and Carlos Hernandez both found guilty for murdering Sam Murray after posing as fake utility workers. In Georgia, we've got opening statements later today in our newest trial we're bringing you for defendant Susan Embert. This woman's accused of staging her husband Jake's death more than a decade ago. Jury selection resumes at 9 a.m. Eastern. And in Massachusetts, we've got the state's case continuing this morning in the murder trial for defendant Brian Walshe. Testimony gets underway at 9 a.m. Eastern there. We'll go there live when it does. In the meantime, this is our top story for you this morning. The burning question still lingering. How did Ana Walshe die? What does the crime scene evidence tell us On Monday, the jury heard from a criminalist who detected blood throughout the Walshe home, and he also collected some tools from the trash.
It was clean overall. When looking through the kitchen, we did find a couple bottles of hydrogen peroxide as well as a knife in a kitchen cabinet. The screening test for blood was positive on this blade.
Now, the jury also got to hear from the medical examiner who testified about the carpets being found in the dumpster that had blood clots in them, as well as a piece of metal that had Gucci engraved from a necklace. Remember hearing that testimony about Ana Walshe always wearing that Gucci pendant around her neck? Yeah, that wasn't the only thing that belonged to her found in the dumpster. So let's talk about what the evidence collected tells us and where did this killing take place, if it took place. We know the defense team is saying that she died in the bed of unexplainable, just natural causes. So there wouldn't have been a murder scene if the defense theory holds true. Let's dig in now. Let's bring in crime scene reconstruction expert witness, Dr. Kenny Kinsey. You know him, you love him from the Murdaugh case. He's in private practice now. Good morning to you, Dr. Kinsey. You were so kind as to review these materials for us, take a look at the evidence, and share with us your opinion. So after reviewing things, tell us what the evidence has you thinking about this morning.
Good morning, Miss Julie, and happy holidays. Miss Julie, I thought the crime scene examiner did a great job with his description of the materials that were collected. I believe it's all going to hinge on the type of blood stains we have. If they can get it in the jury's head to understand, I believe they're very, very close. You know, they're passive blood, and then, of course, there's projected blood. And if they can draw that distinction in their description, I believe they are really, really close to the finish line on this one. And I found his description very accurate, especially with respect to the lipids and the possible body fat and biological materials on those instruments.
This is interesting. Dr. Kinsey, we know this case has quite a big wrinkle in it with him admitting to the dismemberment. You know, you rarely find people who will just admit to that. So he's admitting to that, obstructing justice and misleading investigators, as you know. How can the jury know that this was a homicide, if it was a homicide?
Miss Julie, it's hard to get in the mind of a jury, but I mean, you just have to look at the logical explanation. And I believe this was a Hail Mary, go for broke kind of situation. So they don't look kindly on dismemberment, and certainly desecration, you know, is a tough deal. But I think you've got to look at the logical conclusions. And like I said, the type of blood stains. If you've got passive blood stains that would be involved in the dismemberment, where they found those blood stains, if they can discern from those blood stains any type of projection patterns, I believe that's going to strengthen the case, and I believe it'll get them there.
Boy, I appreciate the insights, Dr. Kinsey. As you said, you have to look at the complete picture and the common sense behind it all. Let's take a listen briefly as one of the investigators was reading off just some of Brian Walsh's Google search history.
How to dismember a body, Google search.
What is the date and time?
January 2nd, 2023, 12:27:43 p.m.
What is the title on page 730, record 2626?
Hacksaw, the best tool for dismembering a body. Can you be charged with murder without a body? Google search. Disposing of a body in the trash, Google search. Best divorce strategies for men, Yahoo search results. Best state to divorce for a man, Google search.
And my personal favorite, can you identify a body with broken teeth? Dr. Kenny Kinsey, is it possible that he may have beaten her to death and the blood left behind is coming from primarily the dismemberment work?
I certainly believe that's a strong possibility, Ms. Julie, blunt force. And I believe that'll probably aid in the totality of the evidence when the examiners and the investigators put it together. And like I said earlier, the type of blood stain probably means more than the presence of the blood stain. And where that stain is at, as in many other cases, there are certain areas of our homes where you would expect to find traces of blood, DNA, and other biological evidence. But here it's going to hinge on the type of blood stain, how it's described, how it was measured and documented, and also it's going to have to tie into the totality of what the medical examiner found.
You're so brilliant. Dr. Kinsey, is the blood clot found in the carpeting that we heard the ME testify to significant to you?
Although it's not an exact science, Miss Julie, you can actually measure the quantity of blood. Now, sometimes, whether it's clotting or not at the point, it depends on a lot of things, medication that the victim may have been on, temperature, of course, environment, but it will lead them, as I said, when you put that totality together, it's hard to get beyond every aspect of the physical evidence, but I don't believe that's the burden. So if they can put that evidence together in totality, I believe they're well on their way.
This is really helpful. Dr. Kinsey, I have a clip for you from the medical examiner. This is from the cross-examination. Have to hand it to the defense team. They did a fine job trying to get as much favorable information out of him as they could for their theory, which, as you know, is a sudden, unexplained death. Here we go.
We can all agree, isn't it, that sudden unexpected death is rare, correct? Maybe I'm overstating that. I'm sorry.
People die suddenly quite often, but depending on what parameters you're talking about, in a young person that has no medical history, yes, it's rare.
Okay, Dr. Kinsey, I want you to draw on your many years of experience when you served for the Sheriff's Department and now in private practice. How often have you ever seen someone charged in a homicide case who resorts to dismemberment after a natural, unexpected death?
Ms. Julie, I can't say that I've ever been a part of a natural, sometimes induced by narcotics or some other substance. And of course, the perpetrator gets scared. I've seen that a number of times, but I don't know that I've ever seen dismemberment, desecration, and disposal of remains from a natural death.
I appreciate that. This case is one for the books. As you know, Dr. Kinsey, a defense team has found an interesting triable issue, as you know here, to really hold the prosecution's feet to the fire to see if they can prove that a homicide occurred if it did. We have to leave it here for now. We're going to be going there at 9 a.m. Eastern time for the start of the case. Dr. Kenny Kinsey, you are the best. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you and your beautiful family. We love you here. Take good care. Coming up next here on Opening Statements, here's what we've got for you.
What we have is a human being whose right to a fair, unbiased trial has been tarnished from the get-go. There's so much conjecture about this case that it really would be impossible for him to have a jury of his peers. And so I'm really hoping for jury nullification.
So how will accused assassin Luigi Mangione's looks in the courtroom, like this pose right here, affect his upcoming trial? Our legal eagles are going to weigh in. Plus, we're talking about the deadly Christmas parade in Wisconsin. We're remembering the victims. 6 people were killed. And, of course, we remember the defendant who represented himself. This is day 2 of our 12 days of holiday crimes being spotlighted.
The Court TV podcast will return.
911, what is the address of your emergency?
It's not really an emergency. I'm a manager at Plank Road McDonald's out here on the boulevard.
Okay.
And I have a customer here that some other customers were suspicious of, that he looks like the CEO shooter from New York.
Okay.
So they're just really upset, and they're like coming to me, and I was like, well, I can't approach him, you know?
No, of course not.
It was 1 year ago today, moments after that 911 call you just heard, that Luigi Mangione was arrested at a McDonald's in Pennsylvania. Now his courtroom demeanor is what's trending in true crime. Monday, before the accused assassin's defense team battled over the collection of evidentiary items, Mangione was seen interacting with his lawyers. And although the proceedings aren't filmed, there are still photographs of it that have been circulating online, really showing a very confident defendant here in a confident pose. Take a look at this, making a flex fist at the camera, and his shirt, it's unbuttoned. I think 2 buttons unbuttoned there. A lot of people talking about this photo, and look at his eyes and the eyebrows raised, that expression on his face. What does that photo say to you? Does he look worried about an impartial jury? What do you think? Send us your thoughts. Friends at home on your favorite social media platform. Let me bring in our legal eagles now, both of them very seasoned as prosecutors. Kevin Brackett still serving in South Carolina. Josh Markey retired in Oregon. So great to have you both here. You both are fantastic at what you do. And I would think these prosecutors would have to be a bit nervous given the big media circus going on here with him. Josh Markey, you're smiling. Someone start with you, my friend. What do you think?
Well, I don't know, nervous. I think irritated would probably be a better word. Man, you know, let's be clear. This is a pretrial hearing, not in the jurisdiction where he's going to go to trial. He was arrested in Pennsylvania, and his lawyers have filed motions to try to suppress really important evidence like the gun and all of the other things. And he's going to end up going to trial in New York. But he seems to believe, at least through his actions, that this is all part of some, I don't know, maybe trial by influencer. And he's going to find, when he finally does get a jury, that the people on the jury aren't going to be remotely like him. And these kind of stunts, in my experience, don't play well. I mean, it may make him feel good, and he may get huge numbers of hits and hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram and X and whatever else. But that's very different. The real key issue is the judge going to suppress any of this evidence? And frankly, doing fist bumps, although we know that judges are not going to let that affect them as to rulings of law, I doubt it's going to get him very far with the judge.
Great points, Josh. And we look at Karen Agnifilo in this photo. She looks, serious and concerned. We know she's an excellent trial attorney. Her husband, Mark Agnifilo, just joined the team here, but she's lead counsel for Luigi Mangione. Mark was a lead counsel for Sean Diddy Combs. So, little known fact here, putting it all together. Kevin Brackett, what do you say? The fist, and the expression, the unbuttoning of the shirt. Does he look confident to you?
Yeah, I think he's starting to believe his supporters and feeling like that's going to be the people that serve on his jury, as Josh said, but it's not. And I think he's definitely trying to play to that crowd and trying to gin up, get those folks worked up to support him and increase chatter about his case and about him. I don't think it's going to work at the end of the day, because I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a jury of 12 people who sit and look into the heart of what he did and who he is, and realize that he just gunned a man down in cold blood, and they're not going to let him get by with that. I don't think that this is anything more than a stunt that it certainly isn't going to influence the judge. I think he's really playing to a future jury and trying to egg the supporters that are donating money to his commissary fund on. Maybe he needs more cup of soup. I don't know.
You're so funny. Great points, Kevin. Yeah, no matter what side of this case you're on, this case has captured the world's attention. It just has. Take a look.
That touches 2 nerves in the American public. 1, death and crime, and 2, insurance.
The issue of this United Healthcare CEO being shot is so large and touches so many Americans that I think it's almost impossible to find someone who would be unbiased and could just hear the evidence.
I want to see everyone have a right to a fair trial, not just Luigi. I want to see the death penalty completely scrapped. I don't think that should be allowed in this day and age. And if we can use the attention on Luigi's case to further those movements, I think that's a net positive for everyone.
So that was just a little sampling of the crowds gathering for these proceedings. And take a look, this is in the hallway. Many of his supporters heading into the courtroom to watch. This suppression hearing has been going on since last week and continues this week. It's expected to last until Friday. Maybe it's infatuation, maybe it's fascination, who knows? Look at this outside. You see the digital billboard trucks, those are very expensive to do, by the way. And what you never see is the victim's face. You don't see the victim talked about. You don't hear anything about Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO who was gunned down, a husband and a father. All the attention is on Luigi Mangione. So, two perfect people to ask about how you prosecute a defendant with so much attention are on our show right now. Kevin Brackett and Josh Marquis. Okay, so if you're one of these prosecutors, bring us into that world. What are you doing right now when you know that everything's blowing up on TikTok and people are in the courtroom and speaking to members of the media? Kevin Brackett, what do you do if you're one of the attorneys whose job is to prosecute him?
I think you've got to make sure the jury understands that you're dealing with two issues here. You've got what he did, and you've got the insurance industry, and that's going to be his defense. I mean, it's going to be the subtext of his defense. He's going to be trying to generate sympathy because of the perceived injustices and inequities of our insurance system, and that all may be true, but we're a nation of laws first and foremost. And if you're not happy with the insurance industry, there are ways that you can change that. The public, can activate itself and reach out to their legislators, both at the state level and the federal level. And I promise you, if those people see enough angry folks out there, they will respond to them and they will satisfy their needs. They will get in there and hold insurance companies accountable. That's the way you affect change in that area. You do not affect change by killing a man on the street, walking up and shooting him in the back in cold blood. And if we decide as a country that it's acceptable for any person with a grievance who feels like they've been done wrong or they're not happy with something, that they can take matters into their own hands and decide what's right and wrong and who lives and dies, do you really want to live in a country where that can happen? And I think that when it's presented in that fashion to a jury, they're going to say, no, that is not the country we want to live in.
Oh, Kevin, you gave me chills there. You're exactly right. I would say no, I don't want to live in that kind of a country. And I could just see an opening statement when you were talking there saying exactly that. Like, if we allow this kind of conduct, then where would we be? This wouldn't be America. Thank you for that. Josh Marquis, to you next, please. Tell us some of the things you would be thinking about if you were prosecuting Luigi Mangione.
Well, there's sort of three things I think of. One is, and this has been a reality for a long time, he's a very attractive defendant physically, and that's a problem. I have had several cases where I prosecuted very attractive women for the homicide of their boyfriends or spouses, and there were special challenges because in our society, we generally equate beauty with goodness. And you as a prosecutor, you sometimes have to get over that hoop because people are so inured to Hollywood. The bad guys look like bad guys and bad gals. Number two is that he's going to need to remember, no matter how fancy his lawyers are, the issue of United Healthcare and the mess that is the American healthcare system is not going to go on trial. In fact, if I'm the prosecutor, I'm filing a motion in limine to have absolutely no discussion whatsoever about whether people like or dislike United Healthcare, because otherwise what you'd be allowing essentially is jury nullification, which is illegal, to say, well, you think if you're mad enough at the insurance company, it's okay to murder the head of it. And finally, and this is something that his defense attorneys, I think, may look at, I see the glimmerings of a mental defense here. This guy may be so divorced from reality and all the things you've been describing, Julie, that he may not, to use the words of the American Law Institute, fully appreciate the criminality of his act. Now, I think he did, but I think he is at least some degree delusional. And that may be a choice his lawyers, depending on how the trial goes, might want to take at some point, is to say, well, yeah, he was doing this, but he essentially, it's sort of like, you have a defendant who kills someone, but in their mind, they think they're killing Hitler or a Hitler-like subject, not a high-level bureaucrat who runs United Healthcare.
Josh, that's an excellent point. All excellent points you made. The last one especially, I don't think I've heard anybody raise that point. That's an excellent question. And these defense attorneys are good. I'm sure they're going to explore every possibility they can to try to figure out how to defend him successfully under these circumstances. Great discussion with you both. Fortunately, you both are sticking around for more questions. Josh Marquis, Kevin Brackett, stand by, please. Friends at home, don't go anywhere. When we come back, here's what's next on Opening Statements.
Your life is not on the line. Mine is. And you think that I think this is funny?
I don't think it's funny whatsoever.
So I think, Your Honor, with all due respect, I think you should show some respect.
Oh, what a treat he was. Remember Darrell Brooks from the deadly Christmas parade attack? Well, this morning, in our spotlight of 12 days of holiday crimes, we're remembering the case victims and looking back at some of his antics. And was it murder or was it manslaughter? We're talking about the lip filler alleged child killer Maya Hernandez's defense. Could it tip the scales of justice in her trial?
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Welcome back. Just days before Thanksgiving in 2021, families lined the streets in downtown Waukesha, Wisconsin for their annual Christmas parade. What happened next was nothing short of horrific as a man drove through the crowd, striking people one by one. That driver would go on to be convicted of killing 6 people in that Christmas parade attack, including 2 young brothers, Jackson and Turner Sparks. Take a look at the victims. We have all of their beautiful faces up on your screen right now as we're still thinking of them and their family members at this difficult time. It's probably way more difficult than it is for the rest of us after living through a tragedy like this. We're thinking about them. We send them love. The defendant, Darrell Brooks, remember him? He decided to represent himself. It became a daily battle for Judge Jennifer Duro.
2003, criminal trespass to dwelling from 2006.
All right, I need to take a break. This man right now is having a stare down with me. It's very disrespectful. He pounded his fist. Frankly, it makes me scared. And we're taking a break.
He's still appealing his case. We're going to talk about that. Let's bring in solicitor Kevin Brackett, longtime prosecutor in South Carolina, famously helped put away Susan Smith. Kevin, it's great to have you on this one. Starting with the victims, I want to focus there. I can't even imagine, you know, the horror those people must have felt. Your thoughts on what it must be like for their family members experiencing this time of year and thinking back on what had occurred?
Yeah, Julie, you know, I mean, obviously, Christmas is supposed to be a happy time, a time to celebrate and gather with family. And for the people who suffered at the hands of this man that day, it will be forever marred by what he did. You know, obviously, the families who lost loved ones, you know, you never quite recover from that. I've worked with countless victims over the years, and it stays a part of them and their lives forever. So, you know, our thoughts and prayers are certainly with them, and you know, clearly just a horrible act at an event that was supposed to be a good family, you know, holiday event that, you know, was supposed to bring people together, and it just is unspeakably tragic.
It really is. You said all of that beautifully, Kevin. I ripped this community apart. I have a clip from Matt Owens. His mother, Leanna, was one of the victims killed. Let's take a look at what he shared with the court at victim impact statements.
November 21st, you killed my mother. And in this courtroom, I watched you run her down and her broken body slide across the concrete. This woman loved and she was loved. You ran her down like she was nothing. And since that day, you have shown no remorse. You've offered no explanation for your atrocities. It offends me that you're sitting here breathing while she is not. You are a monster.
Our hearts go out to that family. Kevin, you've worked with so many victims, so many. You've been a great champion for victims throughout your career, and you continue to do that work presently. What's it like, you know, when you are going, you know, behind the scenes, you know, with folks who've experienced an unspeakable tragedy like this one, and you're walking them through, you know, going into the courtroom and having a moment like that before the judge and the world to face your parents' killer?
It's incredibly difficult, Julie, because, you know, they've suffered and they're trying to come to grips with, in a situation like this, which is a random act of violence that was completely unexpected. And while they're trying to process that, you're the person that is their point person for trying to restore some sense of stability to their lives after it's been thrown so wildly out of kilter. And it's hard to be that person in the room with them, because, you know, and I tell them, I'm frank right from the beginning, I am not going to be able to restore that sense of stability. You are not going to get you know, restored completely by anything that happens in any courtroom. The best I can do for you is give you a number or give you a word, either a large number of years or life. But I can't bring them back, and nobody can. So this is just a piece of your recovery. And it takes a while. Some victims never manage to overcome their grief, and you see them suffer through the years. I'm in touch with people that I helped 25, 30 years ago, and I still see the impact of that crime on them, and other people manage to return to some semblance of normalcy. But it is just tremendously difficult work, Julie.
It really is, Kevin. I want to turn to the monster who caused all that devastation for a moment, Darrell Brooks, still trying to appeal. Let's take a look back at a moment where he was very disrespectful with the judge.
Under 90611, sub 1, sub A, sub B, and sub C, ask your next question, or the questioning of this witness will end.
How are you even a judge?
All right, you may step down, ma'am. Thank you.
And you even gonna call yourself a judge as much as bias you could put up in here. Don't even tell the jury the truth. Got no integrity whatsoever.
It was just a little sampling of it. We remember his antics were awfully disrespectful, and Kevin, apparently he's still trying to appeal his convictions. He's requested an 11th extension of the court to file that appeal. He claims that a prison lockdown has made it difficult to do the legal work and take that appeal. At any point, will he be barred from bringing that motion to the higher court?
Absolutely. I'm surprised that the Wisconsin appellate courts have been as indulgent as they have with this man. I mean, based on his behavior in the courtroom, and let me tell you, I feel terrible for that judge. You know, what she had to endure. Pro se defendants are some of the most difficult, but a pro se defendant who knows that they're going to get life. Wisconsin doesn't have a death penalty, so that's the most you can do, is give them life in prison without parole, and they'll spend the rest of their life there, but you can't do anything more. So what is she going to do? Hold him in contempt and give him another 6 months or a year or whatever? She can't do anything more than is about to happen to him. So he can just run riot in the courtroom. You know, she's got to sort of endure a certain amount of it. You can't bar the defendant who's representing himself from his own trial and just sort of try him in his absence. Maybe you can. I've never seen it done. But and as far as his appeal is concerned, we had a case where a defendant decided to take on his own appeal, and it was a capital case in South Carolina. The man was sentenced to death, and he failed to meet the deadlines. He failed to over and over again. The court gave him every opportunity, and finally they just said, no appeal for you. That's it. You're done. Your appeal is terminated. So I suspect that Mr. Brooks, unless he conjures up some paper pretty soon, he's done.
Right. Great analysis, Kevin. Thank you so much for all of that. Stand by, please. Friends at home, don't go anywhere. Here's what's next for you here on Opening Statements.
I want to say at the beginning of the case, here and now, that I intend to concede the counts related to involuntary manslaughter and child endangerment.
Oh, so smart lawyering right there. We're going to talk about this case, the death of baby Emilio Gutierrez. Was it manslaughter or was it murder? This is the case where his mom left him in her car while she went to get lip filler. And in about 30 minutes from now, Alex Murdaugh's defense attorney will join us live reacting to Becky Hill's guilty plea. So how might this affect Mr. Murdaugh's bid for a new trial? Dick Harpootlian will be joining me live when Court TV Live begins at 9.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
And now for what's tipping the scales of justice in the lip filler alleged child killer case. Was it murder or was it manslaughter? Prosecutors say that defendant Maya Hernandez left her 1- and 2-year-old boys strapped into their car seats while she went in for a lip filler injection treatment. 1-year-old baby Emilio died. Hernandez said she left the air on, but it shut off on its own an hour later. Both the prosecution and the defense delivered opening statements on Monday. Let's take a listen.
This case is called the People versus Maya Hernandez. But we are here today because of two young boys, 2 babies. One lost his life and one lost his brother. The one person who was supposed to protect, supposed to put her 2 sons above everything else, chose herself. On that day, June 29th, 2025, the defendant chose vanity. She chose her appearance over her sons.
This is an incredibly sad case about a 20-year-old mother of 2, a car, and a terrible, awful mistake. But it's not about murder. Now, you've already heard that this case involves 4 counts. I want to say at the beginning of the case, here and now, that I intend to concede the counts related to involuntary manslaughter and child endangerment that are charged in counts 2, 3, and 4 when I speak to you again near the end of the case.
I thought that was some really smart, effective lawyering right there from defense counsel to concede that. So telling the jury up front, look, we are acknowledging she killed her child, she endangered her child, but we're not acknowledging it's a murder. It wasn't a murder. It was an involuntary manslaughter. That's often very effective, concession up front. Why couldn't they reach a plea if he was willing to concede that? Let's talk about this. Let's bring in our legal eagles, Kevin Brackett and Josh Marquis. Josh, I'll start with you here. When I heard that, I thought, why weren't they able to arrive at a plea agreement? Your thoughts on that?
Well, the facts of the case are really egregious. This isn't just a 20-year-old woman who put her kids in a car and ran in for a couple minutes. These are 1- and 2-year-old children that were locked into a car seat. She was told that this medical spa that allow her to have her lips plumped up, and I don't even know if you can call it medical, I think they call them estheticians. In any event, that she could bring the kids in. She chose not to. She leaves the kids for 2 hours in the car. And what happens, and I didn't know this, she had a 2022 model car. They shut down. If someone is not operating the controls or turning the gears, et cetera. So those kids started to die probably 30, 40 minutes. Did she go outside? Did she check on them? No, she didn't. And you're right, Julie, she was originally charged with involuntary manslaughter, which is kind of what you would expect if a mother made a mistake, things happened, there was a crisis and she didn't get back. But it was 2 hours that these children literally baked to death. In California, second-degree murder can be committed if there is implied malice and if there's a conscious disregard for human life. And what's important in this case, Hernandez was originally indicted just on the involuntary manslaughter charged. When they took the case to grand jury, apparently the grand jury thought the case was more serious, and that's why it's been charged more seriously. Now, I understand why the defense attorney is saying, well, we'll make the concession. Now, your viewers should know that involuntary manslaughter is at least 2 or 3 clicks below second-degree murder. There's another charge in between called voluntary manslaughter in California. So basically, the sentence that he's willing to accept would probably be a couple years as opposed to 15.
Mm-hmm. Right. Smart lawyering. Kevin, what do you think about this case? The sides seem pretty far apart, don't they?
Yeah, I agree with Josh, Julie. I mean, the lawyer really did not have a choice. There is no defense for putting your 1- and 2-year-old children into a car and walking away for 2 hours. I mean, even if it hadn't been in the upper 90s in Bakersfield, California that day, even if it had been a moderate temperature and the heat wasn't an issue, it's still dangerous. You can't leave children unattended for that long. Somebody could come along and break the window out and kidnap them, take them away. They're bad people out there. You just can't do that. The very fact that she left them unattended in a car outside for that long is enough to get to the involuntary. So he really had no choice. But like Josh said, he's going to concede the lesser charge because it is so much less painful for her than the second-degree murder would be, and it's really going to come down to what the jury believes was her intent, and was this behavior on her part so reckless and so thoughtless that it rises to this implied malice that would justify a second-degree murder. So I think that the prosecution is right to say, we'll let a jury decide this, because it sounds pretty bad. I mean, there really isn't any excuse for leaving a 1- and 2-year-old in a car that long.
It's horrific. Really sharp analysis from you both. Kevin Brackett, Josh Marquis, thank you so much for being guests on Opening Statements today. That's all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and it's been great being with you. On this show, I am calling out any pants on fire moments in our big trials and true crime stories, and I want you to come along with me. Opening Statements is live every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Court TV. Thank you for downloading this episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. You can watch past shows anytime you like on CourtTV.com.